Welcome pre-cal students to class today on this Monday the 25th. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. I've got a lot of information to go over, so quickly grab your textbooks, notebooks, pens, pencils, calculators, and let's get started right away, please. So grab all that stuff and let's get started right away. Here we go. You will have a quiz Friday. Let me pause and say this. Because the instructional videos are pretty long today, I'm going to go over the announcements really quickly, so I am going to go fast, okay? I know that I told you guys we'd have a test this Friday. I've looked the information over. I feel like a test would be better next week. And so we are going to go with the test next Friday and a quiz this Friday. So please make note of that. Here's the schedule for the week. Today we're going to look at complementary and supplementary angles using radians, also standard position of angles. On Tuesday we're going to look at finding trig values using right triangles. That should be a review for you for the most part. Wednesday we're going to look at radians and arcs and linear speed compared to angular speed. There will be no homework Wednesday, so you'll like that. However, on Thursday there'll be no notes, so you'll also like that. So on Thursday, no notes. You'll work on homework the entire hour on Thursday, okay? On Friday we'll have a quiz, and then we're going to look at a video called Finding Missing Angles Using a Calculator. Okay, so you do not you do not need to write all of that down. Let me get a drink here real quick. You do not need to write all of that down, but that's the schedule for the week. Please turn in your homework now at this time. Page 556, numbers 1 through 11 odd, 25 through 23 odd, and 47 through 69 odd. Also, just so you know, this is the homework that was dealing with radian measurement and converting radians to degrees and degrees to radians, okay? Ashlyn, thanks for taking your quiz. I appreciate it. Joel, you're missing an assignment. It was the assignment about degrees, minutes, and seconds. Please get that turned in as soon as possible, okay? I do contact your parents if I've not received that in a day or two, so please take care of that. You were probably absent last week is what I'm assuming, but you do owe me this assignment right here. Moving on, here's what we're going to do today in class. We're going to go over your quiz. So right now, if Mrs. Gallen has not passed out your quizzes, pause the video, get your quizzes passed out, and then turn the video back on, okay? Moving on, we're going to go over your quiz, then look at 2 instructional videos, and then work on homework. I need your full attention. Please listen to me carefully. If you'll add these 2 videos together, they're right about 51 minutes. I am a very fair, reasonable teacher. You will probably have to watch about 15 minutes of this video at home tonight. And Mr. Earhart, that's not fair. It is fair because I'm cutting your homework back, okay? Here's your homework. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, and 13, 14, about 16 problems. And students, I'm telling you right now, most of these are so easy and quick, okay? I'm just telling you. On some of these, you're finding complementary and supplementary angles of degrees, of angles in degrees. Well, you know, complementary angles add up to 90, supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. This is not a difficult assignment, so that's why it's fair to have you work on this about 15 minutes tonight to finish the videos because your homework is so small. So I am being balanced. I have cut the homework back. You'll see when you do the homework assignment, I've chosen like 2 or 3 out of each section of problems to give you. So I've cut the homework back to compensate. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So once again, you're going to watch these videos in class today. There'll be 2 of them, and what you don't finish, you'll finish at home tonight. Okay, please copy your homework assignment down. Sorry about that. Page 556, numbers 13, 15, 17, 18, 21, 23. All of those are A and B. And then 35, 37, 39, 43, and 45. All of those are A, okay? The video that will help you with your homework tonight is August 25th homework, okay? August 25th homework. And again, I'm not being rude and rushing. I'm rushing so you can watch most of the videos in class today, okay? Here are the 2 videos you're going to watch today. You're going to watch first a video called Complementary and Supplementary Angles. And the second video you're going to watch is called Standard Position of Angles and Coterminal Angles. Okay, so those are the names of the 2 videos that you're going to watch here in just a minute. Okay, so moving on. Okay, go ahead and get out your quizzes. Let's go over these. I'm going to move quickly. You may write on your quizzes. Notice it says you're going to pass these back. You're not going to. After looking your quizzes over, I think some of you need to go home and bathe these in prayer. I'm just kidding with you, but I think some of you need to go home and you need to really go over these and find your mistakes, because when we get to factoring later, and we're just going to assume, I'm just going to assume you know how to do it, okay? So really make sure that you understand your mistakes, okay? All right, here we go. Please get your quizzes out. There were 4 of you that missed number 1, and so here's number 1 right here. Let's work on this, okay? Here we go. First of all, you, excuse my voice, sorry. First of all, you're going to pull out what's common. So we're going to pull out a -3, okay? Whenever your first term is a negative, you pull out a negative sign, and 3 is the biggest number that goes into all of these evenly. So if you pull out a negative number, you are left with this. There we go. If you take this -3 and multiply it back through, you'll get -3x squared, -9x, -30. Now, having said that, a lot of you then factored this, and this is unfactorable. Listen to me, students. If you list out the factors of positive 10, you get 1 times 10, 1 times 10, 2 times 5, 2 times 5, positive times a positive, negative times a negative, positive times a positive, and negative times a negative. I wasn't trying to trick you. I just wanted to see if you knew this. I mean, none of these add up to +3. None of them. So none of these work. So you cannot factor number 1 any further. And that's where most of you, if not all of you, made your mistake, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look now at number 2. One of you missed number 2. Please be embarrassed of that. Please follow along and find your mistakes, okay? And I will go a little quickly here, so please bear with me. I'm going to get another page open and try to do this quickly. Here we go. All right. First of all, you pull out what's common. Notice there's not an x in every term. Also notice there's no number that goes into 6, 19, and 10 evenly. So there's nothing you can pull out. So next you notice that you're factoring a quadratic trinomial with a lead coefficient that's not 1. So you take 6 times 10 and you put the number over there. You'll get 60. If you listed out all the factors of 60, you're looking for one that adds up to 19. Well, try these here. 4 times 15, 4 times 15. You want a positive 60, so a positive times a positive, a negative times a negative. These two numbers right here have a product of positive 60, and they have a sum of negative 19. So I'm going to bring down my first term, which is 6x squared, bring down my last term, which is 10, and then put a -4x and a -15x right in the middle from these two numbers right here. Now pull out what's common in these first two terms. You can pull out 1x from both of those. You can also factor out a 2. And so you're left over with 3x minus 2. Multiply this back through and you'll get 6x squared minus 4x. Now in these two terms here, you're going to pull out what's common. Notice the 15 is negative. Your first term here is a negative, so you're going to pull out a negative. And 5 goes into both of these numbers evenly. Notice there's not an x in both terms, so you cannot pull an x out. So I'm going to put a 3x here and a -2 here. -5 times 3x, -15x, -5 times -2, positive 10. Now you write your matching parentheses once, and then in your other parentheses you would have 2x minus 5, of course, from this and this. And then you look at both of these parentheses and you say to yourself, okay, can I factor these two parentheses further? And you cannot. So that's all that you do. Okay, let's take a look now at number 3. Number 3. Okay, first of all, there's nothing common you can pull out of all the terms. Number 2, you notice that you have a trinomial with a lead coefficient of 1, and so you're going to list out all the factors of -44. Well, I'm not going to list them all out for you, but if you'll think about a positive 4 and a -11, if you multiply those two numbers together, you get a -44. If you add those two numbers together, you get a -7. And so the factorization for this trinomial would be x positive 4, x -11. Okay, let's move on. We really should be able to do those pretty quickly by now, okay? Number 4, 2 of you missed number 4. And here we go. First of all, you pull out what's common. There's not an x in every term. However, you can pull out a 2. So if I pull a 2 out, I'm left with this. There we go. Okay? Next, you look at what you're left over with. Notice it's a trinomial with a with the lead coefficient that's not 1. So we take your lead coefficient times your constant term and put it over here. 12 times 2 is 24. So we're going to list out all the factors of 24, and I'm not going to list them all out, but if you'll think of a positive 3 and a positive 8, those two would have a product of 24 and they would have a sum of 11. So I'm going to bring down my first term, 12x squared, bring down my last term, positive 2, and right in the middle here I'm going to put 3x plus 8x. Okay? And now we're going to pull out what's common in my first two terms right here, which would be a 3, goes into both of those numbers, and an x, and I'm left with 4x plus 1. Then I'm going to pull out what's common in these two terms. They both do not have an x, but I can pull out a 2, so I'm left with 4x plus 1. And now you write your matching parentheses once, and then your other parentheses would be 3x plus 2, of course, from this here, and then bring down your outside 2 right here, and you're finished. Okay? I know I'm going fast, but you can always watch this later if you need to. But this factoring, don't be offended. This is really basic factoring that we need to be able to do very quickly when we get to harder problems. Okay. All right. Number 6. 3 of you missed number 6, so let's take a look at number 6 real quick, please. Okay. We're going to pull out what's common. A 2 goes into both of these numbers. I'm going to pull out a 2, plus your first term is negative, so I'm going to pull out a negative 2. Notice you have a y cubed here and a y cubed here, so I can pull out a y cubed. So here's what I'm left over with. I'm left over with x cubed plus 27. Let's see if I'm right. A negative times a positive would be negative. 2y cubed x cubed would be 2x cubed y cubed. And then a negative times a positive is negative. 2y cubed times 27 would be 54y cubed. So we're good. So now we look at this binomial right here and we say to ourselves, okay, do I have perfect squares? Do I have perfect cubes? What do I have? Well, I have 2 perfect cubes. So we should know by now that when you have 2 perfect cubes, you put a little parentheses and then a big parentheses. In your head, you take the cube root of this term and you put it right here. You take the cube root of this term and you put it right here. And then whatever the sign is, you bring it down. And then you look at this term here, and in your head you square it, so x times x is x squared. Then you look at this term here, and whatever it is, you square it, so 3 times 3 is 9. And then you take these two terms and you multiply them together. X times 3 would be 3x. And then remember, your first term is always positive right here, your last term is always positive, and this sign here is always the opposite of whatever this sign here is. So if this is positive, then this sign over here would be negative. And now we're done. That's it. All right, let's continue on. Number 8, 2 of you missed number 8, so let's take a look at number 8 here real quick. Number 8 is not factorable. And I hope I have all 6 of you students' attention right now. This is a common mistake. You look at this binomial and you said to yourself, I know what you guys said. You said, oh, I've got a perfect square and a perfect square. So I'm going to put a little parentheses and a little parentheses like Mr. Hart taught me. Well, if you'll look back in your notes, what I said is the first term when you're dealing with perfect squares. Now, perfect cubes, it doesn't matter. But with perfect squares, your first term has to be positive and your second term has to be negative. It has to be that way. Okay? Now, if I ever give you a problem like this, negative 16 plus x squared, just switch places. Put the positive x squared first and put the negative 16 second, and then you're okay. The first term is positive and the second term is negative. But in this problem here, you have 2 positive signs, and you cannot factor 2 perfect squares when they're both positive. It's impossible unless you use imaginary numbers. And the factorization of this using imaginary numbers would be 4 minus 4i, or x minus 4i and x plus 4i. And we'll get into that later, okay? Obviously not now. Okay, it's unfactorable. You cannot do that. Okay? All right, moving on to number 9. Our last one. 5 of you missed this one, so please give me your undivided attention. I think a lot of you did it correctly. You just forgot to factor one last step in the end. And I gave this to you on purpose to see if you guys would remember to look at your final answer and see if it could be factored further. Okay, let me show you. Pull out what's common out of the first two terms, and that would be x cubed. So you're left with x minus 2. Let me pause and go back. Sorry about that. Notice we have a 4-term polynomial, so we first pull out what's common. There is nothing common in all 4 terms, so then we go on to step 2, which is pull out what's common of the first 2 terms, and then pull out what's common in the second 2 terms. And of course 125 goes into both of these numbers, so it would be 125 and then x minus 2. Notice your 2 parentheses match, which I think everyone did this. I'm pretty sure that all 5 of you that missed this problem got this far. But then what you forgot to do, and a lot of you are seeing it already, is you forgot to look at your 2 parentheses and see if they can be factored. Now this parentheses here cannot be factored anymore because you do not have perfect squares and you do not have perfect cubes. However, you have, sorry about that, you have 2 perfect cubes here. And you guys know when you're factoring 2 perfect cubes, you put a little parentheses and then you put a big parentheses. The cube root of x cubed would be x. The cube root of 125 is 5. There's a positive sign here, so bring down your positive sign. Okay? And then you square your x, that's x squared. Square your 5, that's 25. And then multiply x times 5, that will give you 5x. And then the first term is always positive, the last term is always positive. And this sign here is always opposite of what you have here. So if this is positive here, you'll have a negative here. Can I give you guys something, a little heads up I've never told you guys before? Anytime you factor perfect cubes, this trinomial here will never be factorable. Never. So you don't have to worry on checking that to see if it's factorable. Whenever you factor perfect cubes, this trinomial here will never be factorable. Okay? All right, having said that, let's continue on. We're just about done. Please learn from these quizzes. Understand that you will use this the rest of the year. Go ahead and pass. Well, don't do this. You can keep your quizzes. I will just make new quizzes next year, which I don't mind doing. Have a great day. Please contact me if you have any questions. Go ahead and start your 2 videos now at this time.